Now let's turn to Bloomberg News reporter Alex Sherman, who broke this exclusive story. He joins us now from New York. So Alex, bring us up to date. What do you know about Dish's plans here?
Well, look, it's funny. I wasn't really expecting a lot of news on the Friday afternoon at 3:30. You saw that stock that Cory put up there. It was a bit of a jump because Dish has finally said they're going to do something with Blockbuster. You know, they had closed down some stores, but this is the first time that we have found out that Dish plans on making an online service a direct competitor to Netflix. The question will be, how successful is this actually going to be? Because Netflix has almost 25 million customers at this point. Blockbuster is pretty much a startup in this field. They do have an online streaming service right now, but it's transactional. So you go online and you pay for one movie and you get that one movie. This is the first time they'll have a subscription-based site like Netflix.
Obviously, Alex, the timing here is impeccable with Netflix changing its pricing, also losing the contract deal with Starz. How many subscribers could Netflix lose because of this?
I mean, some analysts say that it could be quite a bit, up to 15 to 20% of their entire customer base. We'll see if that actually plays out. Losing Starz could be a big deal, though, because they lose a lot of old movies from Sony and Walt Disney. There are a lot of movies there that Netflix customers want to watch. Blockbuster says they have a contract with Starz, so they'll have those movies and Netflix won't. That might be the jumpstart they need. But the big question here, I think, is still pricing. How much is this going to cost? If Blockbuster can undercut Netflix with price, it's possible that they could get a lot of converts, particularly because Netflix just increased their price for DVD and streaming by 60%. We don't know yet, however, how much Blockbuster is going to charge for this service.
Alex, I posited this idea, and I will admit I stole the idea from a couple of investors I talked to today. But the idea that Dish Network can run this as an unprofitable service just to mess up the business model at Netflix. Is there any suggestion that they're doing this to damage Netflix as opposed to have a great streaming business all their own?
You know, there's no suggestion that they're doing this for that. I think they want to make money off this, Cory. But it's an interesting question, particularly because my colleague Andy Fixmer just broke a story saying that Dish has made a bid for Hulu. We had heard that earlier. He got confirmation, in fact, that Dish has submitted a bid to buy Hulu. And I think one of the interesting things with Hulu is it's another disruptor. It's a competitor to Netflix. If Dish were somehow to start up this Blockbuster service and to own Hulu, if they could somehow marry the two, that would be a real disruptive force to Netflix.
Certainly a lot of possible disruption there. Alex Sherman, who broke this story for Bloomberg News, thank you so much for that report. Now, for some additional perspective on this story, joining us from San Diego is Paul Kedrosky, editor of the blog Infectious Greed, a widely read technology publication. Paul is also a Bloomberg contributor. So, Paul, what's your take on this? How vulnerable is Netflix here?
Oh, I think Netflix is vulnerable. I mean, on some level, we shouldn't be surprised at all that something like this is happening. It's sort of been looming. It was just a question of who was going to come with a subscription service that had the same kind of back catalog and a competitive pricing scheme, and the distribution to take a piece out of Netflix. So this combination, I think, makes a great deal of sense in that regard. The question, I think, is, and this is sort of the bet, you kind of got to figure it out either way, is how greedy are the content owners going to be here? Are they going to try and push, whether it's Dish or whether it's Netflix, to a cable pricing scheme, which it seems like is where the discussions with Netflix broke down, which was they wanted to get away from this kind of one-size-fits-all, volume doesn't matter, watch as many movies as you want to pricing model, and go towards a much more tiered pricing model that's sort of analogous to what the cable systems have always done. And Netflix stood up and said, no, the world's changed. We're not going to go back to that. And it seems as if Dish is going the direction of a traditional cable network. And so really that's the break here. Are we past the point where we do volume pricing and it's all flat rate, which is what Netflix wants, or are consumers willing to go back to tiered pricing and cable models?
Paul, you've been really bullish about Netflix CEO Reed Hastings. Does the fact that Netflix hasn't been able to get these deals done diminish your opinion of him at all?
No, I think it had to have been a very difficult stance for him to take, but it's the right tough stance, which is to say that the reason why we've succeeded is because we're not the cable companies. We're going with a flat rate, all you can need movie consumption model. It's what's made us successful. You can quibble about whether or not the price increase at this point was the right thing to do, but that flat rate model is what made Netflix work and allowed people to say, you know what, I'm going to part company with my cable company and go with Netflix. And I think Hastings is making the right choice here, but it's going to cost him in the short run. There's no question.
Hey, Paul, what do you think of my conspiracy theory that Dish Networks could run this as a break-even business, but really screw up the Netflix business model by raising content costs?
I don't think that's. I doubt it's their conscious strategy, but I think the message, and I'm sure you're thinking the same way, is that could be what ends up happening here, because we've got compression on both ends, right? We've got prices coming up from the bottom as everyone's forced to bid up for the Starz content and other content. At the same time, we got compression from the top because prices are going to be under pressure now that there's multiple providers of streaming content, with the result being that all of a sudden Netflix, with the smallest cash hoard and the most difficult position here, looks like it could be facing someone willing to lose money for a while, and that it ends up in the exact same place. So I don't know if it's the conscious strategy, but I have a feeling that's where we could end up in the short run.
Well, and someone with a lot more money to lose. But let me also say that we're harsh with Netflix for not giving us all the data that we want, even as they give us mountains of it. Within Dish Network, I went through the 10K today, and they talk about having two kinds of contracts with their content providers, both a per-user contract that you're talking about, but saying that they've recently entered into flat rate fees. I'm sure that they would like to have flat rates just like Netflix has.
Oh, there's no question. But the flip side is that's not what Starz clearly wants for its content, and it's the reason why it broke with Netflix. So maybe it's giving that kind of a deal to Dish, but I doubt it. It seems as if that's almost certainly one of the reasons why it was willing to play hardball with Netflix, is because it knew it had this deal on the side and it could go there and get the tiered pricing model it wanted, and so it went.
All right, Paul Kedrosky, Bloomberg contributor, thanks so much for joining us today.